Cut into the rear wall of the Newland Transfer Building is a back door. Walk through it and discover more than 8,000 square feet of warehouse space. On February 26, 1985, the man crumples to the floor of the warehouse. He is bleeding hard from the head and close to death. His name is Enrique Elizarbe. 5 years earlier, he emigrated from the slums of Lima, Peru, looking for a better life. It was a search that took him to this warehouse and a job building crates for $5 an hour. As Elizarbe lies barely conscious, a fellow worker named Roland Wheeler runs out of the warehouse and across the parking lot. He returns a few moments later with dispatcher Harry Newland. Enrique is still bleeding but talking.
I said, "Are you hurt?" And instead of saying yes or anything like that there, he would repeat back to me, "Are you hurt?"
An ambulance arrives, but Enrique Elizarbe is fading. Before slipping into a coma, he manages to provide one fact about his attacker.
The rescue member indicated that the victim made some sort of statement that a co-worker had done this to him.
Warehouse records indicate that one person was assigned to work with Elizarbe that day, the man who first called for help, Roland Wheeler. Police are anxious to get his account of what happened to Elizarbe.
Mr. Wheeler says that he was working for a few minutes when he hears a knocking on the back door.
He pushed the back door open and saw Mr. Elizarbe out there, covered in blood, looked like he was in shock.
He said he reached over to his right and retrieved a piece of cardboard, laid it on the ground, and laid Mr. Elizarbe on the cardboard.
According to Wheeler, Elizarbe did not stay put. Instead, he got up and walked inside the warehouse, still bleeding from the head. Wheeler tells police he finally sat Elizarbe down on a stacking crate and then ran to get help. If the story is true, Elizarbe was attacked in the yard behind the warehouse, and Roland Wheeler is a hero. If the story is false, Wheeler is transformed from hero to prime suspect. Elizarbe's family gives permission to discontinue life support. At 3 p.m. on February 27th, Enrique Elizarbe dies, and an assault case becomes a full-fledged murder investigation. The next day, the Washington, D.C. medical examiner conducts an official autopsy. Enrique Elizarbe died from blunt force trauma, 3 separate blows that crushed his skull. Detectives Bob Zinn and Dave Watson examine the minute creases of each fracture and uncover a clue.
We observed within fractures that were across the rear of the skull was a minute particle of what appeared to be a green matter, green material.
It was the color which jumped out at us, and it was green, which was obviously alien to what should be in a person's skull.
Inside the warehouse where Enrique Elizarbe was found, a team of detectives combs more than 8,000 square feet of floor space. Sitting on top of a crate on the shop floor, they find this, a 20-inch crowbar, painted green. Forensic testing indicates trace amounts of human blood. Detectives believe they have found the murder weapon. Now they must find the killing ground. In the area where Elizarbe's body was found, forensics turns up traces of blood spatter on the walls.
We took a forklift and started lifting the pallets and the crates up just to see what was under it, what was around it, and we discovered that there was blood spots directly underneath some of the crates.
Outside the warehouse, detectives find footprints in the thick mud, a green trash can with bloodstains inside it, and a 3-by-5-foot piece of cardboard covered in blood. Detectives take the cardboard inside and piece it together with the pattern of stains found on the shop room floor. The two match perfectly. Van Gelder jumps back on the forklift and moves a few more crates off the warehouse floor.
We searched a little bit further and found a blood trail that led from the crate area across the warehouse floor and out to the back door.
Enrique Elizarbe, it appears, was attacked inside the warehouse. A piece of cardboard slipped under his head and the body dragged outside. The evolving theory of murder makes a liar of Roland Wheeler and places him at the top of a very short suspect list.
We get one shot. We get one try to convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt of a defendant's guilt. And if you don't succeed that first time, he can walk out of the courtroom and say, "Look at me, I got away with murder, and now there's nothing you can do about it."
The state decides to take a pass on the Enrique Elizarbe case. The murder goes cold and remains that way for 15 years. Eileen Davis is a trace evidence examiner for the Virginia State Crime Lab in Richmond.
I got the actual crowbar and I got the actual piece of skull. And it was covered in what appeared to be mold, or what I would term to be mold, and I had to pick through that to find the green paint. There was plenty still left embedded in that piece of skull.
Davis puts the evidence inside a scanning electron microscope, or SEM. Davis concludes that the paint chip found in Elizarbe's skull matches the paint on the crowbar, placing Enrique Elizarbe inside the warehouse when he was attacked. By itself, that fact makes Roland Wheeler a liar, but not necessarily Elizarbe's killer. Watson returns to the case file and crime scene photos, specifically pictures of muddy boot prints found outside the warehouse. In 1985, Watson had asked Wheeler whether the boot prints were his.
I asked Mr. Wheeler if he had gone outside to help Mr. Elizarbe, and he said no. And when I asked him why, he said, because if you go outside, that door, it closes, and you can't get back in. So he said, I couldn't go outside.
In 1985, detectives made plaster casts of the prints found in the mud outside the warehouse and checked them against Roland Wheeler with no luck. 15 years later, that evidence is about to get a closer look. In the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains is the western branch of the Virginia State Crime Lab, home to Andy Johnson, an expert in fingerprints and footprints. Johnson notes that footprints behind the warehouse are the same size and tread as Roland Wheeler's boots, as well as the boots of hundreds of thousands of other men in the United States. Then Johnson spots something overlooked before, a nail embedded in Wheeler's left shoe, a nail that turns Wheeler's boot print into the equivalent of a fingerprint.
It was a highly likely probability that that boot and no other made that impression.
Through a careful re-examination of the evidence, cold case detectives are beginning to get a handle on their case. They believe Wheeler beat Elizarbe with the crowbar, dragged him across the floor of the warehouse, and dumped him outside. On October 28, 1999, Roland Wheeler shows up, unannounced and uninvited, at the Prince William County Police Department. He wants to talk about the murder of Enrique Elizarbe. Detectives are only too happy to accommodate him.
So, you opened the door, you saw him there, and what happened at that point?
At that time, that's why I say, I don't know if I laid him down or on something trying to make him comfortable. I can't remember that part.
I want you to understand that I think that you did it, and I have the evidence to prove that you did do it. Probably the next time you and I talk, you're going to have a warrant for your arrest.
So, I know. I'll be ready. We'll be ready.
Okay. 10 months later, Roland Wheeler has found a new home in the Motor City. He works the night shift, cleaning planes for Northwest Airlines. On August 10th, 2000, cold case detectives arrange for Wheeler to be working alone and arrest him for the murder of Elizarbe.
We were getting ready to try this case. It was within a couple of weeks of the trial beginning when I received information that there was an inmate at the jail who wanted to speak with us. Actually, it turned out being two inmates.
The two informants tell police Wheeler admitted killing Elizarbe. They are explicit about the number of times Wheeler claims he hit the victim and indicate Elizarbe was dumped into a trash can after being beaten. The details are consistent with crime scene evidence that had never been made public before. In January of 2001, a jury agrees, returning a verdict of guilty in the first degree. Roland Wheeler is sentenced to a term of life in prison.